Welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. We have a lot going on this week. We have everything from soccer to rugby, but we also have one of our reporters making a big comeback and going back to his roots tonight. We will also be giving a national and regional view on sports. So are you ready to join me as we head on down to the Pioneer Sideline? Welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Kyle Anthony. We're going to start off tonight by talking about the Point Park men's soccer team, who is trying to climb their way back to the top of the conference. So to tell us how the climb is going, I'm joined by Alex Martage, who will give us the information on their journey.
Thanks, Kyle. The men's soccer team was back in action this past week as they went up against Washington Adventist last Thursday and won 2-1. The game was delayed by 90 minutes from its planned starting time of 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. due to the fact there were no referees there. But it did not matter to the Pioneers as they still got off to a hot start. Paul Carr scored a goal as a header in the 17th minute off of a Zach Rafalowski throw-in. Then, only 8 minutes later, Alan Ramos got his 5th goal of the year as he found the back of the net on a goal assisted by Dominic Canello. The Sharks got a goal in the 78th minute courtesy of a Dominic Atabakang. The Pioneers are in the mix of their longest break between games this season, which is 9 days, as they continue to prepare for Brescia, which will also be senior night in the KIAC matchup at Highmark Stadium. Brescia is a mediocre 1-7 on the season, which makes a very winnable game for the Pioneers. Following this matchup, they will have a week to prepare for their trip to Kentucky on the 24th as they play against 9th-ranked Lindsey Wilson. To close out the season on the 31st, they will travel to Ohio to take on Ohio Christian in a game that will have major playoff implications.
Now, Alex, why is the team playing so much better lately?
Well, the team's finally getting their act together. I think that partially it's just the fact that they aren't playing against as good of competition, but I also think that they're starting to finally hit their groove. It's very late in the season to be hitting their groove, but they finally found it.
Now, can the defense of this team carry them the whole season?
You know, that's a tough question, Kyle, and I think the answer is yes. The offense is definitely going to have to pick it up as the season goes on, but the defense has been red hot, and I think that they could carry them into the playoffs.
Thanks, Alex. Now we'll go to the women's soccer team, who is looking to stay hot and keep their win streak going. So I'm joined by Blaine King, who will tell us everything we need to know about the team.
Thanks, Kyle. Goalkeeper Erica Rooney and midfielder Allison Joyce were both named KIAC Offensive and Defensive Players of the Week. The women's soccer team, they were on a 3-game winning streak, and they were getting ready to play a home game against Georgetown, who is ranked number 24th in the NAIA Top 25 polls. This game was a defensive battle which saw neither team offense run away with the game. Georgetown struck first with a goal in the 24th minute of play. Point Park eventually tied things up in the 38th minute of play when senior Beth McKillen scored a goal from 20 yards out. From there, the 1-1 tie remained the same for the rest of the regulation, and even the game went into overtime, and it went into double overtime as well, but nothing happened offensively. The game ended in a 1-1 tie. Erica Rooney shined as she had 18 saves in 110 minutes of play. The Pioneers' next game was against Maine Fort Kent. The Pioneers got off to a slow start as Maine Fort Kent in the 15th minute of play struck first. Point Park offense looked for an answer, but they were not able to generate any shots off their 18 shots they took. Maine Fort Kent scored again in the 52nd minute of play, and the final of the game was 2-0. The women's soccer team now have a record of 6-4-2 and a record of 3-0 in the KIAC. Next up on the schedule is KIAC rival Rio Grande.
Now, Blaine, what does this team need to do to get back to their winning ways?
Well, considering that they tied a game and they lost the game, they're a little shaky. I think they just have to go back to basics and just start taking shots on goal.
What have been the keys so far to this team's success?
So far, if I had to say, it's goalkeeper Erica Rooney. She's been playing outstanding for the women. I think that if she continues to play hot and you'll start to see the offensive come up and start shooting some goals, we already know that this is a defensive team. So defense is their main attribute. All we have to see from them is scoring.
Thanks, Blaine. When we return, Phil Papore joins us to tell us how the volleyball team did during their trip south. Then Alex Marge will rejoin us to tell us how the rugby team did last week.
We are a social people. We share our inspiration, wisdom, creations, and memories. We share what makes us laugh and what angers us. Built on the notion of a free flow of ideas, our country thrives on the freedom of speech. Without it, who would watch over our governing powers? And how would we share our history to make a difference for the future? It's this freedom to share that gives us a reason to listen.
Start your morning with City News.
Start your morning with campus news.
Start your morning with political coverage.
Start your morning with fun.
Start your morning with us, only on Daybreak.
Did you know that Point Park has a cheerleading squad?
Don't stop. Don't get it confused.
Not only do our cheerleaders represent Point Park at regional and national competitions, but they also promote spirit and awareness of every sports team on campus. Come to any men's or women's varsity basketball game at home to watch the cheerleaders perform at halftime and cheer from the sidelines from the first jump ball to the final buzzer. Sports not your thing? You can catch the cheer team lead the crowd at the fall and spring pep rallies as well, or at several competitions around Pittsburgh each year. So what are you waiting for? Show the Point Park cheerleaders the support they show you.
We know you're wondering what the A-list celebrities are up to. Well, here at Entertainment on Point, we're wondering too.
Have you heard about James Franco and Seth Rogen's new movie?
No, but have you heard Beyonce's new single? Did you see what she was wearing on that red carpet?
Honey, that was not cute.
Did you see what happened on Scandal this week?
No, I was too busy keeping up with the Kardashians. No matter what your guilty pleasure is, we've got you covered.
Entertainment on Point. Get to the point of pop culture.
Yeah!
Welcome back to the sideline. The Point Park volleyball team has enjoyed some sunshine after enjoying some fun in the sun. So tell us how their fun in the sun was. I'm joined by Phil Papore, who's back to talk about the sport he loves.
Thanks, Kyle. It's good to be back talking about volleyball. Point Park volleyball is the best sport that we have at this campus, but let's get right into it. The Sunshine State had its fair shares of ups and downs for the Pioneer volleyball team this past weekend at the Kaiser University Challenge. Point Park headed south hoping to soak up some sun and lay down some spikes, but the opening match was less than desirable. The team opened play against St. Thomas University in a tightly contested first set. The sides traded blows up to a score of 16-16, but that's when the tide turned in the Bobcats' favor. The team ended the first set on a 9-2 run, and the rest would be history. Point Park fumbled the next two sets as St. Thomas outkilled Point Park 42-22 en route to a sweep. Megan Branchick was a bright spot for the Pioneers, leading the team with 7 kills. This past Saturday, the team played 3 matches in one day at the Kaiser Challenge. Looking to rebound off of that early sweep, the Pioneers came out hot with a sweep of Trinity College. Point Park then moved on to face the host team, Kaiser University. This was a closer match, but Point Park managed to escape with a 3-1 victory, with the sets being 25-17, 22-25, 25-19, and 25-20 in the Pioneers' favor. The team had just one more match ahead of them to try and go 3 for 3 on the day and get back to 500 on the season. However, Florida College wanted nothing to do with that. Facing elimination in the fourth set, the Pioneers fought hard and took home a 25-23 win to force a deciding fifth set. Once again, both sides threw its best shots, but it would be Florida College sneaking out with a 17-15 victory in the final set. Branchick once again was the star with a total of 41 kills across all 3 matches. The defense was much improved as well, as Point Park recorded 90 digs. The team looks to keep the momentum going in its next match this Saturday in a doubleheader at conference foe IU Kokomo at 11 a.m.
Phil, I can't tell you how happy I am to see you back doing this sport. Now, Phil, how can a tournament like this affect the team?
Well, let me tell you, Kyle, I'm just as happy to be back. And really, a tournament like this is very helpful for a team that has been struggling, especially a team that's kind of been inconsistent like Point Park, because the team is just very streaky, so they'll have 5 wins in a row followed by 5 losses. So a tournament like this can really kind of get the team back on track, especially when they win 2 out of 3 games and they play a really good third game where they're down early and they fight back. Even though they lost, that's still a momentum booster for this team moving forward. So a tournament can really just help the team kind of get back on track, and especially if they can get 2 or 3 wins in a tournament.
Now, do you think this team can stay hot the rest of the year after the success they did have in the tournament?
Well, to be honest with you, the way this team's played, like I said, they've been so streaky and so inconsistent that I think they can get hot, but it's a matter of when. Like I said, they opened the season with 9 losses in a row, but then they were able to follow it with 6 or 7 wins in a row. So I think that they'll be able to get on a hot streak for a while, but I think their best bet is just to try and play consistent and set themselves up for a hot streak going into the KIAC tournament, because with this team, they really need to feed off the momentum and they need to finish the season strong.
Thanks, Phil. Now we're going to go from the court to the pitch, where Alex Martage is ready to rejoin us to tell us how the match went this week.
Thanks, Kyle. The men's rugby team was back in action this weekend as they looked to rebound from a tough loss last week against Robert Morris. The team traveled to Grove City knowing they would be without 5 different starters, which made pregame preparation and game planning amply important. Despite the changes in the lineup, the Bison had one of their best performances of the entire season. The biggest difference between this match and games prior was without a doubt the play of the pack, led by Red Watson at prop, as the Pack dominated the scrum the entire game and got 2 tries courtesy of Phil Fischetti in the first multiple try game of his career. Fischetti went on to receive Man of the Match honors in what was one of the most memorable games of his career. The game was not all smiles for the Bison though, as Richie Carver suffered a fractured nose and Cody Sawicki a dislocated shoulder. Carver will not miss any time, but Sawicki is expected to miss the next 2 weeks. This was a pivotal win for the Bison, who are now 2-3 on the season, and with this win will stay in playoff contention. The team will now face off against Gannon, who are a new addition to the conference. Following this match versus Gannon, the Bison will have their regular season finale against arch rival Carnegie Mellon, who is the most likely anticipated match of the season. If the team is to win both of these next 2 matches, not only would it be the first winning season in club history, but also it would be their first ever playoff berth.
Now, Alex, what were the keys to victory?
Well, I said it once, I'll say it again. It was the play of the pack, led by Red Watson and Sam Allman. The pack was dominant. They ruled the scrums, and it's one thing that really hasn't happened in many of the games thus far this season, and it was the biggest difference of the game.
Now, what should we look forward to the next time we see this team play?
Well, I think that you're going to have to look to the pack for them to continue their great play, and you're going to have to look at the backs, such as Jacob Como, Phil Fischetti, who just had his first multiple try game of his career, see if he can build off of that momentum, and see if the Bison can have their first winning season in club history.
Thanks, Alex. Jess Paterchek has the latest news on Pittsburgh sports, and I have the national sports headlines coming up after the break.
Here at the Pioneer Sideline, we get freshmen involved as quickly as possible so they get the real-world experience on air and behind the scenes to set themselves apart in internships and potential jobs. Blaine, where is that video? I needed it in Key Pro like yesterday.
All right, I got you, Chris. But I had a quick question for you guys.
What do you mean the questions? It's always a question. It's always a... What? Where is he? Blaine!
Blaine! Blaine!
Freshman, you can't find any good ones anymore.
Ever wanted to be behind the mic and have the world listening to your show on campus? Well, it's just as simple as joining WPPJ, Point Park's student-run radio station, located on the 2nd floor of Lawrence Hall, right next to the dining services. Listeners can tune in using Point Park's website or through the TuneIn app by searching WPPJ. WPPJ welcomes any new DJs that want to get involved, so be heard. Do you have what it takes?
An expression, a belief, a symbol, freedom to worship, an unspoken word. To express yourself, means standing up for what you believe in. There's a freedom to worship and a freedom to live. To speak never saying a word, to love, to let your voice be heard. The light of your own path. For more information, visit www.freedomofspeechpsa.org.
Welcome back to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm Jess Paterchak with your regional sports headlines. The Pittsburgh Pirates' Bucktober postseason appearance was a short one at that. Pirates pitcher Garrett Cole was benched after letting the Chicago Cubs get their 4th run of the night. Number 12 of the Cubs, Kyle Schwarber, and number 24, Dexter Fowler, each scored a home run in this devastating loss against the Buccos. Also in the heat of the loss, Pirates infielder Sean Rodriguez repeatedly punched a water cooler in the Buccos dugout. Rodriguez later tweeted his apology saying, quote, "I want to apologize for allowing my emotions to control my actions in a negative manner. I also spoke to the cooler, apologized personally, and he's forgiven me as Christ forgives all," end quote. The Pirates now have the offseason to focus on the road ahead and what the future has to offer. On the ice, the Pittsburgh Penguins are off to the start of their 2015-2016 season. So far, they are not off to a hot start, currently with a record of 0 wins and 2 losses. They lost their season opener against the Dallas Stars last week, 0-3, with Stars goaltender Antti Niemi making 37 saves against Marc-Andre Fleury's 21 saves. In their second game of the season against the Arizona Coyotes, the Penguins lost 2-1, with winger Phil Kessel scoring the lone goal unassisted for the Pens in the game. In the near future, they look to show improvement against opponents like the Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs, and so forth. Last night in their Monday night primetime football debut of the season, the Pittsburgh Steelers took on the San Diego Chargers at 8:30 p.m. at Qualcomm Stadium. With starting quarterback Ben Roethlisberger out for a few weeks with an MCL injury sustained during their win against the St. Louis Rams prior, backup quarterback Michael Vick led the Steelers on the forefront in the game. The first play of the game consisted of Vick throwing a rather lengthy completion pass to tight end Heath Miller. At the start of the game, both teams had a record of 2 wins, 2 losses. Hopefully, Vick can lead the Steelers to some consistency in weeks ahead. The Steelers were able to beat the Chargers 24-20 off of a clutch end-of-the-game drive capped by a Le'Veon Bell 1-yard touchdown run. That's all I have for regional sports. Now over to Kyle with your national sports headlines of the week.
Thanks, Jess. We'll start off talking about some college football, and we will go to California, where the University of Southern California has fired their head coach, Steve Sarkisian. This comes a day after the University of Southern California athletic director, Pat Hayden, announced that Sarkisian would be taking a leave of absence. Sarkisian is in his 2nd season at USC. Sarkisian has had a very public battle with alcohol. The problem became known to the public on August 22nd when Sarkisian showed up to a preseason booster event intoxicated. After a loss to Washington this past week, it was reported that Sarkisian was under the influence of alcohol for the team's game versus Arizona State. Now we will go to Florida, where 6-0 Florida Gators will be without their starting quarterback for the rest of the year and maybe even part of next year. Will Greer was suspended by the NCAA for violating the NCAA rules. Greer tested positive for performance-enhancing substance. The substance that gave him a positive test was from an over-the-counter drug which Greer took. Positive for the Gators is their backup quarterback Treon Harris is 4-2 as a starter for the Gators. Lastly, we'll go to the ballpark, where Major League Baseball is cracking down on hard slides. Los Angeles Dodgers second baseman Chase Utley was suspended 2 games for an illegal slide in Game 2 versus the New York Mets. Utley did a takeout slide to break up a double play, which resulted in the Mets shortstop Ruben Tejada breaking his leg. Major League Baseball offered Utley a 1-game ban, but Utley wouldn't take it. He's allowed to play in the next game because he's appealing his 2-game ban. When we return, some of the biggest headlines in sports will be discussed on the Pioneer Reporters.
If you're having trouble with your schoolwork this semester, there's a helpful place on campus that you should know about. On the 7th floor of Lawrence Hall is the Program for Academic Success, which provides services like tutoring and academic counseling. The program's Writing Center is specifically designed to help you with your writing assignments, and you can even get help for them online. Students are encouraged to stop in the office, give a call, or send an email.
Every human being has a purpose, has a dream to have their voices heard, no matter where they come from, no matter where they go. As an American, it is their right to have freedom of speech. I have a dream that one day this message will speak louder than words, that even the quietest voice will not go unnoticed. That is my dream. What is yours? For more information, visit www.freedomofspeechpsa.org.
Welcome back. I'm joined once again by Blaine King, Alex Marge, and Jess Paterchek. And it's time to discuss the hot topics in sports, and we're calling this the Pioneer Reporters. The first topic we're going to talk about is the USC football team. They fired their head coach, Steve Sarkisian. What do you think about that whole situation and Pat Hayden still being the AD?
Blaine, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. It's something that they were considering throughout the season, especially with reports coming over the next 2 weeks. But these past 2 weeks, excuse me. But what Steve Sarkisian did, I mean, he does need help, and I think this was the right move by USC. First of all, to ask him to take a leave of absence, but now to fire him because he actually has to fix his life.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there, Blaine. I think that the Steve Sarkisian era unfortunately had to end, and it isn't necessarily about his football IQ. It's about the fact that he has an issue that's going to affect wherever job or whatever place that he works. And now for USC, it's about the fact that they need to get away from the Pete Carroll era, as it's been called. And I think that the biggest step to achieving that is first going to be getting a new AD and no longer having Pat Hayden there.
I think it's a very unfortunate circumstance. For first finding out that he was initially like a leave in absence and then going on, it's very unfortunate to have substance abuse problems, and hopefully it's something the team can overcome in their future.
I think USC, the first thing you need to do is fire Pat Hayden. This isn't the first bad coaching decision he's made. He's made multiple. He hired Lane Kiffin. Now he's hired Steve Sarkisian. Now there are reports coming out from his ex-players at Washington saying that this was a problem before. Danny Sheldon, Shaq Thompson saying, yeah, he used to have a six-pack in his desk and a bottle of tequila. Showing up to events drunk. And I agree with Alex. You have to get rid of the Pete Carroll era. Pete Carroll's gone. The era is dead. You need to move on. And Sarkisian was the sixth best choice. It's not a job that anyone really wants anymore, for as glamorous it is. Now we're going to go to a play that happened in playoff baseball. We're going to talk about the Chase Utley slide. Clean, dirty opinions, Jess.
It was a dirty hit, hands down. It was ridiculous. They said he started to slide when he was parallel with the base. I mean, come on, it's just ridiculous. I mean, he fractured his fibular result. It's just horrible.
I definitely don't think it's necessarily the cleanest of slides, and you could probably make a good case for the fact that it wasn't. But this is playoff baseball. This is, there was a brawl in the game between the Pirates and the Cubs. It's not always going to be clean. And I think that, Chase Utley definitely was walking a very thin line there. But I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I think he maybe have gone a little bit too close.
Herm Edwards said it best. You play to win the game, and that's what Chase Utley did. He was trying to win the game. Alex, you made a great point. It is playoff baseball, and I agree with you. Mm-hmm. You want to win the game. It's not easy. It's not easy pickings here. It's either you're going to win or you're going to go home, and you're trying to do your best to win. So I'm cool with the play.
Yeah, Jess, I'm sorry. All three of us are going to have to go against you here. I agree with the takeout slide. I didn't have a problem with Gomez did to Mercer. I didn't have a problem with Jung Ho Gong got it done, and I still don't have a problem with it. In baseball, you're taught to take him out, break up the double play. He broke up the double play. He did his job as a player. Now we're going to go to the new NHL overtime. You're playing 3-on-3 hockey, fast-paced. We got our first taste of it. Alex, your turn to start.
I think this is one of the greatest things that the NHL has done in the past 3 decades. I think that this is going to make NHL overtime hockey one of the most exciting sights in all of sports. I think that the NHL has struggled to gain attention in the Big Four realm of sports between baseball, football, and basketball, and that now this is something that really separates hockey from the rest of the sports that have become so mainstream nowadays, and it's going to make the game so much more exciting. So I think fantastic decision.
I think it's fantastic. It's great that it just brings so much more intensity to the sport, and yeah.
Yeah, I agree too. I actually do. I love the 3-on-3 overtime rules. It's a new intensity to the game actually, because you have kind of your best 3 players out there on the ice trying to win the game for you. So I see this being pretty big. And just imagine what happens when you have to go into a power play, 3-on-2 or 2-on-2 situations. So
I actually love this new 3-on-3 overtime, but I think it's gonna turn into something that teams are gonna be able to figure out. Because when you grow up playing hockey, as I did, one of the things you do during the summer is that's your summer league, is playing 3-on-3. So all these guys have played it their whole life. And what 3-on-3 stresses is, I know Pittsburgh people will hate this, the Dan Bylsma concept. You're going to stretch the ice, long shots, and you're going to skate. Well, what people are going to do is they're going to start figuring it out. In a couple seasons, you're going to see it do what happened when it went to overtime initially and when it went to the shootout. People are going to love it, and people might hate it. I currently love it, but I think coaches are going to start to adapt. Got coaches like Claude Julien, Dan Bylsma, Mike Babcock. Now we're going to go back to baseball. Matt Harvey has been a little bit of hot water with the Mets the past few weeks. Do you think this is going to end up being his last season as a Mets starting pitcher?
yeah, I actually do. First of all, with the pitch count that he's on, you're in the playoffs. I know that he just had Tommy John surgery, but you kind of have to suck it up, and you have to go out there and play the game. This is playoffs. Alex mentioned it earlier. You're here to win. This is playoff. It's not the regular season. It's playoff time. It's either you're going to win or you're going to lose.
This is the New York Mets. This is New York. Everything is bigger in New York. And you know what? If you can't get it done with the Mets, I mean, then, you know, it may not be the most glamorous team, but this is the most glamorous city. And you know what? I have no problem if they were to release him or, you know, not re-sign him. I think that, you know, it's you get one chance and if you spoil it, it's done.
Certainly. I think that every player has their time when they're finished, and it's just his turn for that. So,
I agree with you guys that Matt Harvey's going to be done, but I agree with Kurt Schilling, as I mentioned earlier. He never knew a player that missed a workout. So I think Matt Harvey's done for that. I also think the Mets are going to go look for some other pieces to help the team. They want to re-sign Cespedes. Harvey's their number 3 guy, and he's getting paid a lot of money. Somebody also used him as a number 1. And to improve the team, they need to move that massive contract he has. Because they do have young guys waiting in the wings. Zach Wheeler is going to be back next year after having Tommy John surgery. And Matt Harvey, as much as he was dynamic this year, he still lacked the flair he had the first time. Now we're going to go to football. We've seen our first NFL coach fired in Joe Philbin. After that, we saw reported that Sean Payton was getting looked into by the Dolphins. Is Sean Payton going to leave the Saints, and is he as desirable as everyone thinks he is?
William, would you care?
Yeah, I'll take this away. You know, when Bountygate came out, there was kind of speculation that Sean Payton was going to be on a short leash, even though he didn't know anything about Bountygate. I honestly do think the way the Saints are going right now, with Drew Brees getting up there in age, the team is not as dangerous as it used to be. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would have thought this was crazy. But I do think Sean Payton is kind of getting ready for a new change. And they said one of the teams that are interested there's multiple teams interested. I would not be shocked if the Cowboys would also be interested.
Well, the Cowboys are always a team that seems to have issues with solidifying the head coach position. And I think that, unfortunately, in the case of Sean Payton, he's going to be exposed. I believe that Drew Brees makes him an elite coach, and it kind of gives him a little bit more glam than he actually has and appeal. Jess, what do you think?
I think Sean Payton can last anywhere. He's a fantastic coach, and he has quite a history with a Super Bowl win and with leading the New Orleans Saints to 3 NFC titles, so I think he'll be great anywhere.
I think Sean Payton should have been fired last year after his miserable season because I don't think he's actually that great of a coach. I think he benefited from having good people around him. Well, that does it this week on the Sideline. Get ready to join me next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and and of course the same Pioneer sideline.